Speaking Human.
Today on Speaking Human, we tackle the brand status of the National Football League and audible some wild ideas to rush the NFL into the future.
Speaking Human.
Welcome to Speaking Human, where we simplify the world of marketing for humans. I'm Shad Conley, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Patrick Jebber.
What's up, Shad?
Not much. How's it going? Welcome to fall. Are you ready for some football?
Well, you know, this is the time of year when football really takes a hold on the nation.
The game, man!
It's all about the game. Just like any other sport, it should be about the game, but it often does not work out that way.
Not so much these days. A concussion, a controversy,
Yeah.
domestic violence, those kind of things. But, in case you haven't guessed it, we're talking about the NFL today, the National Football League. And before we get into some of our ideas to make the NFL better, because we're so good at making everything better, we're going to answer some brand questions. So, Patrick, what's our first question on the docket today?
Well, it's a pretty easy one, Shad. How the NFL brand is currently doing. Do you think it's rising, sinking? Do you think it's status quo right now?
I'm going to slide a little bit in the middle there. I'm going to say it's sinking, but in a very slow, quicksand-like way. Not a quick sink, but I do think it's a brand that's moving past its peak or its prime in a way. And it's dealing with a lot of stuff, is what I would say. 10 years ago, it was pretty smooth sailing for the NFL. Things were just looking great. The water ahead was just perfect, and things have gotten a lot choppier in recent times. We have attendances down. How people are watching TV is changing. Concussions. Social issues, this owner-player divide and the weird stuff going on there. I'd say even the popularity of fantasy football has probably waned a little bit. So all these things, it's kind of like this perfect storm has formed around the NFL in many ways, and they're just taking hit after hit. And so they're just not at that peak they were, which is what happens to brands. You go through this period where you go to the top of the mountain and eventually you're going to come down. All those things being said, I don't think it's a quick descent. I think the NFL is still a wildly popular product. So it's kind of like talking about an Apple or a Google. They're falling a tick, but they're still pretty dominant. The golden age is over, is what I would say is key takeaway for me there.
I'd agree with you. I think you hit on everything. You say the golden era. I sort of call this a transition period of American culture. I think football is still beloved by millions and will continue to be. Like you said, it's a very popular sport. But you have issues like the concussions, which have severely hurt the sport in its infancy. But what I mean by that is it's the youth players, right? If you don't have people coming up the ranks in youth football to become pros because of the fear of concussions, which I think there's a lot of that happening right now, then you have that potential. It's like, let's say any business, you have to bring in young people. Otherwise, eventually the older people in your business or your company are going to retire. And then who do you have left? Nobody, if you don't have younger people coming in. So the NFL, I think, is going to eventually face that if they don't figure out how to solve the problem, right?
Yeah. The key thing, I think they need to face this kind of new reality and make plans to sustain things into the future. And I'm not sure how much this is a league that likes the future. I don't know if that's true. Part of that might just be my perception. Mm-hmm. I think of the league as an old man that prefers things the way they were and fears change.
Yeah.
That is just my perception of the NFL. I'm not sure if that's actually true. I don't know what's going on behind the curtain, but it just seems a little bit like, what are they actually doing to get ready to address some of these things that are small issues now, but could be huge issues, 15 or 20 years down the road?
And that's the real key, is it's more of like a quicksand, right? It's a very slow sink that if they don't correct it, could cause problems, but it's more of long-term problems. And that's very hard for most people to come to grips with in life in general, right? It's kind of like climate change. It doesn't affect me right now, probably won't affect my children, so who really cares, right? We'll deal with it when we get there. And in the NFL, you're talking about, like you said, maybe 20 years, not quite as long of a time span as climate change.
It's true.
Yeah.
But those are the difference makers brand-wise who can tackle those challenges ahead of time and be prepared and pivot before those shifts actually come.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So let's move on to our next question here. Which NFL team do you think has the best uniforms? Quite a shift from our last question.
Yeah,
too, right?
like a very deep question versus the very surface level. What do you think looks good on these guys? So I went back through, I looked at all the uniforms again, just because it's been a while since I've sat down and really thought about the uniforms. When I was a kid, it was all about color. When I was a little kid, that's how I picked the teams that I liked or how cool they looked. Like I loved, at the time, it was the Los Angeles Raiders. And I also liked the Steelers when I was a kid. Oddly enough, being from Browns country, I got a lot of flack from my family for that. And I was a very little kid at the time. But going back through the uniforms, I really like the Seattle Seahawks, their traditional blue uniform. Not to be confused with their Color Rush uniform that they had a couple of years ago, which is like neon green.
Yeah.
That thing was really bad.
It's a bright green.
Yeah, it is really bright. Now, I get what they're doing. They're trying to change it up, just like, all the sports, they're trying to change up the uniforms a little bit to get people interested, create variety, and not be the same old thing. You have to do that at some point. But I also like the originals, or what I call the originals, which are the Steelers, the Browns, San Francisco, the Cowboys with that star on their helmet. I think there's something to the uniforms that have stayed very true to their roots, to their origins, and not changed much over the years, because I think there's just that history and longevity that creates an emotional connection with it. Once they change their uniforms, it's like, well, those aren't the uniforms that they had when I was a kid kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say all the professional sports have gotten good at tweaking the uniforms and using that almost as a marketing tool, doing something different that piques fans' interest. And they've played with that, I think, in a good way. It's just there as a gimmick that draws people in a little bit.
Yeah. So do you have a team that you really like their uniform?
Well, I would get along very well with Child Like You, because my favorite one is probably, looking at them all, it's the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
It's that black and silver, that hard, strong, sleek look. Just looks cool. It wins the day for me. I look at everybody else's, and there's some I like. I like the classic look of the Chicago Bears. I like the Rams helmets. Not necessarily their full uniform, but just their helmets and the way they do the Rams horns. But yeah, the Oakland Raiders is the one that I just kind of come back to that I think, in full, it's the most distinct. The way the black and silver stand against each other. It's a real signature look that it's easy to like.
Yeah. And it's something that, black, silver, as a non-player,
Goes with
it
everything.
goes with everything, yeah. Probably also the most conservative out of the crazy colors and styles and stuff that all the other teams have.
But as you mentioned, that's kind of endearing within football.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to like Miami's or something like that, it's just a real kind of turn off to me. So I'm not sure creatively how much you can really do with the football uniform to even make them better.
Like your helmet had spikes on it.
Yes, something Mad Max style.
Yeah, it'd be actually a really cool gimmick where they did a Thunderdome game throughout the season.
Yes.
Yeah, it just did crazy Mad Max gear on all the guys. I think that'd be really cool. Maybe that's a way for the next movie before it comes out in the theaters, do a whole NFL tie-in.
There you go. Yes. Maybe that's, getting ahead to our creative ideas rather than, these ideas to make the NFL safer. Maybe they just need to go entirely the other way and just make it so crazy dangerous that it just becomes this spectacle with people have flamethrowers and just completely out of control.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure people who love the NFL would probably listen to that and say, no way, you want to protect your players. You're already talking about concussions. But entertainment, if they're into it, they want to do it. You'd lose a lot of the current players, but the guys who are like, I'm in for it, doing the Running Man style.
Total Gladiator edition.
Yeah. So what's your prediction, Shad? I mean, I know this year it's, still pretty early. What do you think? What team will win it all?
I will say, we're recording this. We have the benefit of making this pick. We're 2 weeks in. Maybe it's a benefit. Maybe it's a detriment. I'm not sure. So we've gotten to see a little bit of what these teams are going to be like. My instinct is always just to go for the Patriots because of their history of success. You know what I mean? They're like a good bet. If you're in Vegas in the past 10 years, it's paid off most of the time to bet on the Patriots. And the Super Bowl odds, they're at the top. Them and the Rams, it looks like, are currently at the top.
Yeah.
I'm going to go against that a little bit. I'm going to go outside, just force myself to. So I'm going to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not sure I really totally am sold on them, but they have a really good defense, which tends to be a big factor in who wins the Super Bowl. Much improved quarterback, I think. I'm going to pick them, and then at the end of the year, I'm either going to eat my shoe or be like, I knew it all along.
Well, I'm going to go with the Rams because they're a favorite 10-1.
I had them even closer now. I think on more recent odds, they've actually gone up a little bit.
Really?
Last Vegas odds I saw, they were both 650.
See? But, part of me always wants to go for the total underdog. Tampa Bay, I think, is 200-1 odds.
Be a good payout.
Yeah. Anything with skull and crossbones. Pirate flag, that's always a cool one.
Yarr!
Arr. Or, the Raiders.
Yeah. Something scary.
Yeah, scary.
Yeah, the other team I thought about was the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
What I've seen of them in the first 2 weeks, their defense is pretty weak. That was what kind of kept me away from them. And we'll see how things play out. What we see when we get to January tends to be a pretty different picture.
Everything could change in a matter of weeks. Our picks could fall apart. You never know. The Browns could actually win a game and then come back and win the whole Super Bowl.
Yeah, in 2 weeks, the Browns just making some really, really good headlines. Some really interesting stuff happening in Cleveland, as always.
Poor Cleveland.
The entertainment factor is always high.
I mean, it's sad.
It is. It's always in dramatic fashion, though, so at least it's entertaining. I think my favorite headline after they tied week 1, Browns off to their best start in 14 years.
It really was, right? I mean, they didn't lose that game.
Yeah, that was the other good headline I got was breaking news, Browns don't lose.
Yeah. They didn't win, but they didn't lose. Pretty crazy.
Crazy. Speaking of crazy, in a minute, we'll huddle up and call out a few creative and possibly slightly crazy ideas to make the NFL a better brand and a better product. But first, let's get a quick word from our sponsor.
Today's sponsor is Farmers Insurance. Insurance can be confusing, overwhelming, and time-consuming. At Hire Insurance Agency, we remove the guesswork and hassle, helping you protect what matters most. We offer a wide range of auto, home, business, and life insurance policies to help you meet your specific needs. Call 844-543-3463 or visit hireinsurance.com. That's HYRE insurance.com for more information.
If people say your dreams are crazy, if they laugh at what you think you can do, good. Stay that way. Because what non-believers fail to understand is that calling a dream crazy is not an insult. It's a compliment.
That was a clip from the recent Nike commercial, Dream Crazy, narrated by new Nike spokesman Colin Kaepernick. That clip ties in with our show today in 2 ways. First, Kaepernick is a former NFL quarterback, and that ad premiered at the start of the 2018 NFL season. Second, we're about to dream a little crazy with our ideas for changing and improving the NFL moving into the future.
The future, Patrick. So we're about to make it. This is one of those shows where we get our brainstorm going here and we start to throw out some ideas without limitations for making the world around us better, which we're so good at.
We have all these crazy ideas, and I think that's probably where I'd stop. Would they work out? Probably not. Would they create chaos? Probably.
Yeah. Just a reminder, last time we did this on our creative product upgrade show, I came up with an idea for a lawnmower that uses lasers.
That's probably one of the greatest and most dangerous products that we've ever introduced.
Yeah. One of the things our ideas are known for is their danger factor.
I love danger.
If an idea is not a little dangerous, it's not a little good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it's like a quote from the great movie of our youth, Top Gun. That's right, Iceman. I am dangerous.
Great delivery, too.
Yeah. So we're going to each share 2 ideas for improving the NFL that could be as crazy as we want them to be, from jetpacks on players to live gambling on games through the TV screens. Whatever comes up is fair game. Right, Chad?
Yep. Fair game. It's all fair. You want to kick it off? You want to throw out one first?
Yeah, so I think you're going to really like this, Chad. The first idea I had, I call it visionless gameplay. Ooh. I think it would be awesome if the visors on their helmets and face masks could become opaque during gameplay so that they couldn't see or barely see. Maybe there's like a different opacity depending on the play that it's going to be introduced that cause the player's vision to be impaired.
I love it already.
So this would cause their other senses to be heightened, in my opinion. Also, it would make for some seriously interesting games. Maybe it wouldn't be the entire game. Maybe it would only be in certain circumstances, which I haven't totally thought through, like what circumstances those would be. But even better, they wouldn't get advance notice of it. So could you imagine some of the insane hits or just sheer chaos it would cause on the field? Just all of a sudden, you're in the middle of a play and you lose vision.
That's crazy.
Right?
Totally crazy. Yeah. I think it's great. You could have on TV, then you could give glimpses into what the player's actually seeing.
Yeah.
There's also, say a team gets a penalty, instead of taking yards away from them, it could be adding in a new challenge, this team is going to see these creatures on the field now, running at them or something like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of fun things you could do with that. And it sounds cool too. Visionless gameplay. Brought to you by Doritos. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Maybe it's not the whole game like you mentioned, but just for parts of the game that happens or comes into play somehow in certain scenarios and just really ups the intensity.
Yeah, maybe it's a couple plays here and there. People will tune in to see when those plays happen because how exciting would that be? You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. Dude, did you see the visionless gameplay this week with the Browns? They almost won because they had visionless gameplay.
And it really opens up the avenues for creativity. It's just endless, the possibilities of what you could add in there.
So you like it. I knew you'd like it.
I love it. It's probably your best creative idea ever on the show.
I don't know if that's a compliment or
a knock on previous ideas.
I'll take it as a compliment.
I think it's great. And it actually could be tied with my first idea. Now, I looked with my ideas. I was trying to actively solve some problems. What are some problems facing the NFL and how can I help solve them with my ideas here? And one of them, I looked to the helmet. So I came up with what could be called either helmet heads or face unmasks.
Okay.
And what these are helmets that offer better full protection around the entire head, total protection from concussions, ideally. But what it's also doing is displaying a true-to-life digital image of each player on the outside. So when you're watching, it looks as if you're seeing a player wearing no helmet at all. So for the audience, you're getting to see what looks like this person's face. You're getting to see their expression. I thought this helped solve 2 problems. One is the problem with concussions and player safety. The other one is one of the things with football, from a marketing perspective is the personalities are missing a little compared to basketball or other sports where you get to see the face. You know what I mean? You get to kind of know the players a little better because they're not covered up by a helmet. So you get to kind of see these faces bare. It'd be like they're walking around. It would also make it seem a little more dangerous than maybe it is, which could make the play a little more exciting from a spectator side. Well, it's actually safer.
I like that a lot. There's a couple things about that I really like. One is obviously the safety factor. The other is being able to see their faces and their expressions during gameplay. Because I think that is something that is definitely missing from football that a lot of other sports have. Take rugby. Rugby is a really physical sport. I mean, even sometimes more so than football, in my opinion.
Yeah.
they're not wearing helmets. And you get to see their facial expressions. You get to see the intensity of the looks on their faces when they're running down that field and then getting tackled by somebody else. So I think there's a lot to that. I think seeing the expressions connects you with those people a little bit more. So maybe that is a great way to sort of solve some of the NFL's problems, because it's that emotional connection you're creating to the player and the spectator, the fan.
And technically, you know, maybe these helmet heads or face unmasks could include your technology as well. So we're doing these two different things at the same time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think if you've got the one technology of being able to display their faces,
Might as well throw the other thing in, right?
absolutely, absolutely. You're sort of adding safety and also taking it away at the same time. So it's great. I love it. Like, well, we added a bit of safety feature here, but the other feature is going to negate that.
You're more likely to get blindsided because you have no idea what's coming.
Oh, that guy got whiplash. He doesn't get a concussion. He actually just got whiplash. That's really good. I like that. So far, I think we're on a roll.
Amazing.
So my second idea here is what I call inflate date. So not inflate gate.
No.
Okay, but
Different, right?
inflate date. So this is where the NFL would choose random people from the crowd, spectators, to come and play in the actual game. The idea is really simple. If a fan enters their name when they go to an NFL game, one fan will have the opportunity to suit up and play. Here's the catch. They'll be suited up in an inflatable uniform, kind of like those sumo wrestler uniforms, kind of like that. And mainly that's to protect them from real physical harm because, you know, these guys are like 300 pounds, you know, I mean, just pure muscle. And the odds of you getting a fan that could take that kind of tackle is, I'm assuming, pretty low, them surviving a tackle like that. But they get to play for at least one possession. And obviously they would have to sign waivers. But in my opinion, this adds so much fun to the game. Not only for fans, it'll increase viewership, it'll also increase attendance, right? Because just the chance of being able to go out and play for their favorite team, you know, to be able to watch just an average person going up and playing against these guys that are just behemoth masses of aggression, being like, that dude just got taken out. I just think it'd be a lot of fun.
I completely agree with you. I think to actually not only get fans more involved in the game, but put them in the game.
Yeah.
And the fact that you found a way to do that, one of the things I was trying to think about when putting things together is, you know, how can you get fans more involved and engaged? And especially with the experience of actually going to games, I think that's a big thing, as people have been like, it's kind of better to watch NFL games from home than it is to go to them.
Yeah.
Here's something that gives you a reason to actually want to attend them.
Yeah, attendance is one of the driving factors there. And then the other is, you know, obviously just engagement. In every game, it would be different because it would be a different average spectator taking the field.
And I think if they got to do something like a kickoff return or something like that, it'd be awesome if somebody does something amazing, right?
Yeah. Because you're rooting for that person. You're not rooting against them. But at the same time, it's, well, whatever happens, happens. You know what I mean? It's like, that was insane. That guy just ran an 80-yard touchdown, and he's just Joe.
Average Joe.
Yeah. Or, man, Joe took that hit like a champ. I think he bounced 15 yards after that guy hit him.
And he has a great story to tell his kids.
Absolutely. Think about that, too. That's the other part. You go to this game, and then your family and friends are watching. You've just exponentially increased the reach of that story.
Yeah, definitely. You're 2 for 2 today. You're on fire.
So what's your second idea? And will it work with my inflate date?
Yeah. Actually, the first thing I thought was, oh man, these two are going to tie together. You solved a problem I was having with my second idea, an incorporation idea that I think could work perfectly. While still keeping your idea, it could be used within my idea. Let me tell you about it. So my second idea is called owner roulette. So I have this perception of owners as these old rich guys who just sit up in the booths during games, lording over teams. I wanted a way to get owners more involved, bring out their personalities, bring them more to the fan level, you know, make them more accountable to the fans. So I was thinking, how could I work that? Part of my original idea was, well, maybe there's some way to have them play on the field. But the challenge I encountered, I'm like, these are like 80-year-old guys. How are they not going to get hurt? Enter your inflatables, right? So that could come into it. But more on that in a second anyway. With this idea, with owner roulette, the owners of the 8 franchises with the worst records each season would have to play this game of roulette. where they would spin a Price is Right like wheel to determine which 4 owners would face penalties for their sins. Their sins being losing too much. And then, so this competition to see which of these 8 it's going to be narrowed down to 4. And then those 4 would have to do something to determine what their penalties are going to be. It could be anything. They have to be a water boy for the game. They have to kick a field goal in a game. Maybe if they're donating their time to charity. Maybe they have to let fans control all the business decisions for a week. Maybe they have to sit in the nosebleed section with the fans for a month of games. Or maybe it's just something where fans are picking the penalties or coming up with the actual ideas. I think key here, though, is inserting the inflatables and getting these guys into games. Yeah. So just at least for partial of games, they're seeing what it's like to be on the player side of things. And other players then have a chance to tackle these guys.
Yeah.
And I just think this whole idea is, making the owners a little more accountable, bringing them into the game a little more, and also watching them squirm a little, I think would be a joy to many fans and players alike. And it could just create this entertaining sub-product to the NFL. It could even be a little reality show that's part of the NFL brand.
I love this because it's gamifying their relationship to not only the spectators, but then to the players.
Yeah.
Yeah, stick them in the game, man. That's what I say. Give them an inflate date. We're just going to put you in for these 2 plays.
Yeah. See what it's like to be on the front lines.
I think there's some of those owners that probably physically couldn't make that happen, but maybe that's also what makes it interesting.
Or maybe one of their kids could do it or something like that. There's a way to figure it out, but it would be pretty fun, I think, to have a little owner roulette.
See, what I love about each one of those ideas, too, is that you could potentially do them all at the same time, meaning like they could all be little pieces of the bigger puzzle of how to make the game more interesting. It doesn't have to be one or all simultaneously, but you could say, now's time for owner roulette, and then have that segment, Could also be a great way for them to get additional sponsorship tie-ins. Just think of all the new sponsors you'd bring in with these ideas,
Yeah.
Visionless gameplay brought to you by Oculus Rift. With your Oculus Rift, see what they're seeing. Oh, that would be super cool because you could do the cameras on the helmets and maybe even through the Oculus Rift, watch the game through players' eyes.
Yeah, definitely. That was one of the things I thought about. If you could give a glimpse of what the player's actually seeing, that would be a really interesting way to show the game, because you show it from outside where it just looks normal, and then you get this cut to the inside from the camera, and you're like, holy cow.
Yeah.
They got a penalty. Oh no, they're seeing Doritos all over the field.
Yeah, that could be combined really nicely with visionless gameplay and your
helmet heads or face unmasks.
Yes. Visionless gameplay.
Now combined with helmet heads.
For even more intensity. There's so much there. I'm not saying these are the best ideas to make the NFL better, but they're definitely the best ideas to make the NFL better.
If they're not the best, they're in the top 4.
Yeah, exactly. That's good stuff, man. I think we've definitely given the NFL some food for thought.
I expect to hear from them soon.
Yeah, I would think in the next at least season or 2. So on that note, everyone, let's get our final nugget of human wisdom. Human wisdom.
Today's nugget of human wisdom comes from one of the great coaching post-game press conference rants in NFL history. I'm talking about the 2002 diatribe from the then New York Jets coach Herm Edwards about what the great thing about sports is. I'll let Herm take it from here.
This is what's great about sports. This is what the greatest thing about sports is. You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out. Because it matters.
So that's just a classic monologue that lives on in sports lore. The marketing takeaway for our listeners today is a pretty simple one. You play to win the game. With every piece and every effort, no matter how big or small it may be, you should be all in, trying to win over your customer. You like that tie together? Plus, we got to hear that great clip, which is always amusing. Way to go, Herm.
I love Herm. It's a great business tie-in for the day. A little nugget of human wisdom that has context to what we're talking about today with the NFL, no less.
It works on the field. It works off the field. It works everywhere.
Yeah. Field of life, the field of business, field of dreams.
Field of dreams.
Jinx, you owe me a soda. So, a lot of good stuff today, but that's it for today's episode. You can find current and past episodes of the podcast on speakinghuman.com. You can also find the podcast on iTunes, where you can leave us a review using phrases like awesome, sensual, or life-altering. We can't wait to hear which one of those words you choose.
Tweet us your best crazy idea to make the NFL better using the hashtag NFLideas. You can find us at speaking_human on Twitter. That's at speaking_human on Twitter. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Speaking Human. Catch you then, humans.
Speaking human.